All right, there. Welcome back to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. And happy holidays to everyone out there who are celebrating Thanksgiving. We hope everyone has a great Thanksgiving tomorrow. All right, doing a little Grand Solar Minimum news update. First, let's take a look at space weather. Solar winds moderate at 433.8 kilometers per second with a density of 6.4. I want to show you the sunspot numbers. 39, but we have 3 active regions and one that is being circled. It usually indicates we will see a possible number 4 sunspot being named. Cosmic radiation at 8.1%, not very much of a change with that. And starting to see this consistency that cosmic radiation dosage rates are beginning to drop, but really not fast enough because we're still really high. KP indices are at a 1, and the 24-hour max is at a 2. And just to point out the coronal hole that is now Earth-facing and should have high-speed solar winds somewhere around November 27th. So at this point, moderate volcano or earthquake is definitely possible, but nothing too major to be expected at this point. Now, let's get into tonight's show because there's a lot to talk about. A couple of things that I was reading over here at What's Up With That. And by the way, this article is about TSI and the impact that we have with TSI and the climate, the temperature change. And we brought this up the other night on the BBC talking about the temperature changes between 0.1 and 0.3 degrees Celsius. Now, or I'm sorry, 0.01, 0.03, I should say. With that being said, you're thinking to yourself, how is this possible for them to make that claim? What is it that they're doing to get away with this claim? That not much cooling is going to happen, even if we were in a grand solar minimum. And it's simple. Reading this article, there is studies that are being done, of course, and some of you may already know this, but the aspect of that 0.01 and 0.03 is from the TSI. That's right. They are only considering TSI. That's watts per square meter. Now, as you all know, we don't have any way to monitor that. And I apologize, not 0.01, it is 0.1 to 0.3. But as of February of 2020, we saw the TIMS, I think it was, satellite, that operation was shut down. We were no longer able to view data, real life data, on TSI. I think when the last time we did see data for that, it was right around the 1361 range, 0.2, 0.5, 0.6. It was up and down between 1360 and 1361. Now, remember, they made an adjustment. It usually set in the 164 to 165. This new adjustment brought the new norm down to 161, 162, but it was showing a decrease. And here's the concern, I think, that some at NASA actually had. Thanks to channels like us and other like-minded, like Adapt 2030. But we were talking about the TSI and the amount it had already dropped. And the grand solar minimum just really got started. And this is the very beginning stages of a grand solar minimum. And I was reading this article, and it talks about these grand maxima. Now, it doesn't even mention the Dalton minimum as a grand solar minimum. It just talks about grand maxima and grand minimum. And so basically where we're at right now is in line for a grand solar minimum, that of a Maunder minimum. But the simple claim of 0.1 to 0.3 in a grand solar minimum is just the considering part of TSI. It does not take into measure of the cosmic radiation and the volcanic eruptions that occur during these grand solar minimums, and the cooling effect that it does have on our climate. If they would use a higher variable of solar impact on the climate, they would be able to show us a completely different answer, folks. And there was one stat that really stood out to me, and I'm scanning this really quick just to try to find it. But there is a stat here that really is huge, and people really need to pay attention to this part. I'll start here. There are a number of rival composite TSI datasets disagreeing as to whether TSI increased or decreased during the period of 1986 to 96. Further, the satellite record of TSI is used for calibrating proxy models. So the past solar variations can be inferred from sunspots and cosmogenic isotope measurements. This is reference here to a paper, Velasco Herrera, 2015. As a result, some of the data set for past values of TSI since 1750 have low variability, implying very low impact of solar variations on a global mean surface temperatures, whereas data sets with high TSI variability can explain 50 to 98% of the temperature variability since pre-industrial times. Folks, that's really high. That's a very high probability of the type of impact it could have on climate. So if you are pushing the Green New Deal and you're blaming man for climate change and you think CO2 is bad and you think man is causing this, which data set are you going to report from? The data set from low TSI variables that show no impact or little, 1.1 to 0.3 cooling? Or are you going to go with maybe somewhere in the middle? How does that break down, you say? I still think this guy is being very modest. If you go with IPCC, they're going to tell you that 0.1 cooling. If you go with a middle type model, you could look at a 0.3 or a little higher cooling. And it corresponds to moderate minimum estimate. And then if you go with the highest part, low solar scenario, which is not moderate minimum, with amplification by solar indirect effects, the next 20 to 30 years of observations should reveal a lot about the role of the sun in climate. I know there's lots of you right now watching this broadcast. Well, thanks, Jake. 20 to 30 years? Are you serious? Get out of here. Folks, I've always said this from day one, okay? This climate change business doesn't happen overnight. Even if we had 9 years to save ourselves and we affected the climate change and we did all these things to make things go different, it takes a very long time to impact. Cooling is decadal. And this paper, and this article, talks about grand solar minimum really beginning in early 2001, 2002, and lasting up to the 2070s. And I think what this article or paper is referring that we are seeing the low of solar activity between this time period, which matches up to these grand maximum cycles that Zarkova talks about. So we are in the second grand cycle of a super grand solar minimum, if I can get that out. I'll repeat that. We are in the second grand cycle of a super grand solar minimum. And a super grand solar minimum has 5 grand cycles in it. So we are just at the beginning of this super grand solar minimum. And to me, I feel like that we will see moderate to low activity. And the next grand maximum cycle or minimum cycle, we'll see even lower variabilities or lower solar activity. Again, in 1,000 years, we won't be here. But the reason why I mention this is that we are alive during a very unique time of any cycle that we know of, that we study, that we research, that we can verify. We're alive for one of those events, a grand cycle that happens every 415 years or so. They are comparing this grand solar minimum that got underway officially in the 2020. And, well, really, I think we've been saying this since 2017. But in 17, Zarkova validated it. John Casey also validated it. Other folks like Lee Wheelbarger was talking about it. And again, in 2020, Zarkova once again confirmed the grand solar minimum. But we are alive for something that is historic. And the unfortunate part is that our world politicians and lawmakers are hijacking an event they know is so big. And they're going to come out looking like stars because, think about it, folks, they're setting their climate carbon goals by 2030 and 2035 to net zero. By 2030 and 2035, this grand solar minimum will be in the depths of the lowest of the lower solar activity from the sun during this grand solar minimum. I believe the 2030s and 2040s are going to be brutal when it comes to low solar activity and its impacts on the climate. So in 2030, you're going to notice more snow, you're going to notice more cold, you're going to notice less summer heat like we have seen early here in the grand solar minimum, but that will continue to wane as each year goes by. Each decade goes by. You will see the results of cooling. And guess who's going to take all the credit? That's right, the world leaders, the ones that make the Green New Deal laws, the ones that say, we did it, we changed it, we got rid of CO2. What they did is they changed the economy and made themselves richer. So when YouTube banned us for having advertisements on our shows because we were harmful content, the only thing that our content is harmful about is their pockets, because we are exposing these frauds for what they are. And that's it. Frauds. Hijacking a grand solar minimum, a once in a generational lifetime event, and 2 or 3 generations. Okay, if we're talking about a grand cycle, we're talking about 5 to 6 generations. They don't have this opportunity again for a long, long time. We know that we will see cooling. And oh boy, some of these scientists are really predicting a doozy. So we can just make up these goals to have cool, reduce carbon by here and here. And when they see the climate goes down, we've won. We've sold it. Everyone believes it. But then Google and YouTube want to shut down people telling you the truth about solar science. And just like here, this article and what's up with that, you will see links, several links to examples of scientific papers right here at the bottom, testing the IP6GCM simulations versus surface temperatures for records 1980 to 1990. These are actual papers with the link attached to it. So this isn't just some blog that is showing you their opinions. This is a peer-reviewed paper in a scientific journal that gives you proxy data, that gives you actual explanations on how they got these numbers, where these numbers come from, and how their test results came out. And like I said, the IPCC reports, they don't use the reports with high variability, because if they tell you that the sun is low variability and the sun doesn't impact the climate because man drives it, they have to use the low variability. If they said that climate change was natural, then man didn't cause it, well, you better bet your sweet behind that they're talking to you about natural climate change, and therefore it wouldn't be that big of a secret. But the fact that the plan is in, it's the perfect plan. How do you steal from Mother Nature? How do you steal from something from the universe and make it your own? The grand solar minimum. The one cycle of the sun, especially in a grand cycle like this one, where we know the sun's lower activity impacts the climate. I'm telling you. Notice all these people who are super rich that are investing in these Green New Deals? They're going to be really rich. They're all going to win Nobel Peace Prizes because the climate cooled. We did it. We did it. And then I saw this other article here on what's up with that. Scientists note a nightmare sulfur injection geoengineering plan might cause problems. This guy brings up a really good point. Can you imagine the scenario of scientists pumping a bit of sulfur into the atmosphere and nothing happens? Then they pump some more and the needle still doesn't move. Then suddenly, an extreme atmospheric event, like a large hurricane or a volcanic eruption, throws up some extra water vapor and the entire sky goes black. And I have been saying this as well, that you have people like Bill Gates who want to cloud our sky, seed cloud, to make more clouds and spray particles up in the atmosphere to create a block on the sun. But what they don't already understand, well, again, another hijacking of grand solar minimum. That's what's already happening. Cloud nucleation is taking place right now in our atmosphere due to the higher rates of cosmic radiation in our atmosphere. So once again, Bill Gates and other MSN phonies are telling you that geoengineering is going to put more clouds in the sky. It's going to block the sun. It's going to lower temperatures globally. Again, another example of hijacking the grand solar minimum, twisting the truth, profiting off of it like a bandit. Oh my God. Whew. Yeah, again, harmful content to YouTube and Google because we're here to expose this economic plan. This is not a change in climate. This is a change in economy. And it's perfect for them. They know they're going to see cooling from this upcoming grand solar minimum. Speaking of cooling, cold Arctic air to reach UK this week, spread into the rest of Europe. The UK Met has issued wind warnings for Friday and Saturday, November 26th and 27th. 2021 is low pressure system bringing strong winds and heavy rain and even sleet and snow in some places. The strongest winds will arrive across northern Scotland during Friday afternoon and will then spread across the rest of Scotland, Northern Ireland, and some exposed coasts of northern England by evening, and the rest of the UK away, far away from the southeast by Saturday. So cold, winter-like temperatures coming your way here very, very in the near future for the UK, starting this weekend. Speaking of UK, I want to wish my friend David Birch very, very well wishes and hope for a speedy recovery. David announced, David is a great researcher of the Grand Solar Minimum, does a wonderful job with the climate on oscillations and oceanic cycles and just all of that. A lot of the stuff that I have gained knowledge from, I also lean on David Birch from the UK. So he was diagnosed with cancer recently and has now begun his chemotherapy treatment. So well wishes to you, my friend. Just want to let you know I was thinking about you. But anyway, it's going to be cold over there this weekend, so bundle up when you get home from the hospital. Or I shouldn't say the hospital. They just say hospital when you get home from hospital. That's how they say it in the UK. I'm sorry. I'm not making fun. I'm just saying we say when we get home from the hospital, and they say get home from hospital. So, all right, enough of that. So lots of cold air coming across the UK a little early. We've been talking about it. When's it going to be here? I remember last year I kept saying how cold it was going to be in the UK, and it didn't even really get cold until late January, and it was like a fart in the wind. This year, we're already starting to see signs of that early cold. Maybe possibility of repeat of 18. I don't know, but it's possible. Record snow in the sea, right? Northern Japan. A potent storm system is moving over the Sea of Japan, bringing heavy sea effect snow. That's probably way worse than lake effect. To parts of Japan, in some areas breaking all-time 24-hour snowfall records. 30 inches was recorded in Shumarinai, I think that's how you say that, over the past 24 hours, setting an all-time 24-hour snowfall record. 30 inches in one day, folks. Neoro appears to have gotten 24 inches in 24 hours. That's an inch an hour, if you didn't already know that. Snow is expected to continue falling through the end of the week. Yikes. That's what clouds look like when you have sea effect snow, and records are being shattered. Now listen, I'm not trying to hijack this story and say, oh, global cooling, look at the record snow, because this is a typical event that does happen, sea snow. But when you are breaking all time, not just the past 20 years, past 40 years, but you're breaking an all-time snow record. And remember, Al Gore told you in 2009 that you won't see snow past 2013. Your children wouldn't see snow because of the melting ice on the polar caps. And now we're talking about records being shattered all time? 30 inches in 24 hours? The hypocrisy, the lies, the misinformation. It drives me insane, folks. I feel bad for what's happening to this world. And then I feel bad about what our children are going to be left with, what they're going to be the ones paying these outrageous, ridiculous high prices and taxes and consumer goods. Our children, our grandchildren, they're going to pay dearly for this, especially when these bozos around the world get rid of fossil fuels as energy and then they rely on solar and wind in 2035 and everyone freezes. Blackouts. Can you imagine having a blackout in the winter because you just can't keep up with demand? And then the shame of flipping the coal plants back on to heat the world. They're going to have to do it, or they're going to be responsible for killing billions of people. Or is that the plan? Is that the plan? Interesting question. All right, let's take a look at our GFS outlook. Whoop, I'll just let the cat out of the bag, but let's go back a little further here. Let's start over November 25th. That is Thanksgiving. High pressure dominating most of the northern part and the East Coast. So when you got high pressure, we've got dry weather. That was a concern, people traveling for Thanksgiving. Will we see treacherous weather? The answer is no, thank the Lord. Except if you live in BC and Alberta, you will see some snow. But as we move into the day, Thursday, a system does approach us in the Midwest, but this is just rain. Some snow showers to Wisconsin, parts of Michigan by Friday, and again, light rain, snow to affect the Northeast by this weekend, Friday into Saturday. Right now, these are lake effect snows. They do not appear to be too heavy. But I wouldn't be surprised to see some decent accumulation in Syracuse, especially along the Finger Lakes and North Country of New York. I'm really not expecting this to be a blockbuster storm for the Lake Erie folk on this one particular. High pressure is still dominating as we get into Saturday, but much colder air moving into the region. A little clipper comes through the northern part of Ohio on Sunday, November 28th. And then that little system might kick up a little more snowfall than the lake effect for Erie, PA, and western New York. South towns of Buffalo as well, as heavier snow moving in across the western New York, across most of New York. This storm actually, folks, has changed. The direction of this storm earlier was going more of a southeast direction like you see right here, and would continue. So if you were in Albany and south, the snow line was stopping there. But now GFS has changed this forecast, and snow will engulf all of New York State by Monday morning, November 29th. Heavier snow in Massachusetts, lower Vermont and New Hampshire also. Some lake effect snows from Michigan. And again, high pressure dominating after that. For the most part, the Northeast dealing with a nasty storm. Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, you're going to see the bulk of that Monday night into Tuesday morning. And behind it, cold air coming from Canada. And that will create more lake effect snows. It just depends on how persistent these are. That could pile up some more inches. Then Wednesday, December 1st, we have another chance for some light snow across the Northeast again. Lake Erie, Lake Ontario, producing lake effect snows across New York, across Pennsylvania, and then another clipper system moves across on December 2nd. So there's a pattern here, and it's the Northeast, New York, and Massachusetts, and the Northeast, Maine, of course. We are starting to see this increase of chances of light snow. And it's going to be supported mainly because of the amount of cold that we're going to see too. But look at this low pressure system developing here on December 4th. And this is a little bit far out, but we have to watch this one because it appears as if we got one giant low that just forms and combines by Monday, December 6th. Now, this cold front, thankfully, is dipping very low. And I think that also creates this storm to move in a lot more northerly direction. Again, way too early to make any kind of call on that. But Minnesota, Wisconsin, watch out early December. You could get smacked with a big one. And then December 7th, another low pressure system a little bit further south this time, coming a little bit closer to Ohio and Indiana. But again, this one appears to stay rain across the Northeast. Now behind this is another major cold front, guys. Look at this. December 9th, we are expecting this cold front to reach the southern Texas to Mexico, folks. These isobars that are close together, that's high wind. So this is going to be a nasty blizzard on the Canadian side. If this storm changes track, which it has plenty of time to change track. This is all the way in December 9th. So I hate to say it, but just based on this GFS forecast, the areas that I've been calling for the most snow and the colder temperatures, it does appear that's going to start happening in the first week, actually the last 3 days of November, moving into December. So winter definitely is showing its ugly face a little bit earlier than we'd like. Let's look at temperatures here in the next several days. Here we are today. Some cold temperatures across the United States. The Northeast, the Northwest, the Northern Plains. Temperatures in the 30s and 40s in the Northeast. More cold Arctic air pushing its way down this weekend. And that's really for the Great Lakes and the Northeast. That's where we're starting to see this persistent cold every night in the 20s and just continues to just hang around. So right now, Mother Nature is doing her part by frosting up the ground, getting it frozen. We get a couple of mild days in the 30s and 40s by December 5th in the Northeast, but that's short-lived as the very warm temperatures along the East Coast and the Southern Gulf Coast, we will see that go away by a look at all this purple coming down from Canada. Half of the country will be engulfed by this cold front by December 8th that will be pushing this low-pressure storm up the coast, and that's the only reason why it's not all snow, because the coldest of this air is going to be behind that big low-pressure system. But look, more colder air coming in from northern part of the United States. Let's actually take a look at the full picture here. North America. So that's what we're looking at by the first week of December. Look at all the pink, guys, the pink and the dark purples. That is all that Arctic cold that we are going to see this winter. It's building up right now. I'll start this on November 27th this weekend. And we start to see that pink and purple really start to expand in early December near the Arctic. And it's really starting to test the waters a little bit more by the time we get to December 10th, as most of Canada will see sub-zero temperatures in the far northern portions of the Arctic, and very close to 0 to -5, -10 temperatures reaching the Montana border by December 10th. Now, that's not that big of a deal, but to see all this bright pink and purple that is building up in the Arctic, and these polar jet streams, if they're weak like they're being predicted, we're going to see these kinds of blasts a little more frequent this year and a lot colder. And this early, I mean, look at Alaska. There's reports right now the cold is just relentless, and there's no signs of it letting up. For this time of year, for them to be developing this kind of cold, it's already a big deal, in my opinion. So bundle up. If you have a fireplace, get the chimney swept. Get the firewood now if you can, because gas prices are going up this year, folks. I know you probably got an email. It's going to cost us more to heat our homes, so if you have alternate heating sources, you might want to think about using those this year a little bit to help save some money. So winter is definitely on the way. Not to be a downer, but if you live in North America, we are definitely getting ready to head into a winter. And just looking at this forecast map over the next several days, I'll just put it in motion. We definitely see that Arctic air creeping and the snow creeping a little bit further south every little trip around this polar region. And you can see the snowstorms, that dip in the jet stream, though. That's where you got to watch how many more systems are going to see doing that. And I'll tell you, Western Canada, atmospheric river situation, folks. I'm very, very concerned for all of the coast of Western Canada. Looking at this weather map, we are seeing a continuous loop of snow and rain falling every single day of this outrun. That is not good. We've already seen lots of crop damage out there, flooding already. It does not appear it's going to stop anytime soon, so we need to pay attention to that. That could be a dangerous situation, if not already dangerous. So that's what we definitely need to keep our eyes on there, folks. Continuous atmospheric moisture coming into that region, not letting up. So BC, Alberta, that's why we're seeing all these record snows early. Where are we at La Nina watch? Well, 0.806. That is considered a Moondaki La Nina. No big deal. No big deal, folks. But with La Nina and where we are in the solar cycle and how we're in the negative right now, I think on the PDO, I get mine confused sometimes. But there's a lot of factors going into this winter. Even the old Farmer's Almanac saying it's going to be cold. And usually you can't get that thing to tell you it's going to be cold. So lots of factors that have us guess that we're going to see a cold winter this year here in North America and parts of Europe. Already seeing it in northern China and Russia, definitely Siberia. They have their snow. The ice is forming just nicely across the Arctic Circle. I want to say hello to a few people out there in the chat, guys. Mari could not make it tonight. Her and her daughter won tickets to a hockey game for her daughter being an excellent student at her school. So Mari and daughter are having a little time, and they are well deserved. But yeah, so miss you, babe. Anyway, Knife Collector, hello, my friend. Thank you for holding down the fort. Daniel, good to see you in the chat. I don't know about that comment, but that's okay. Mr. Boston, long time no see indeed. Thank you for being here. Shirley, hello. Eli, lots of comments from you on our Patreon. I am not ignoring you, my friend, but I do see them. I do read them. I've just been really busy. A lot of my time is being taken up now during the day and the evenings as well. So I do apologize if I'm not getting back to you guys fast enough. But thank you again for your continued support of our channel. Pizza Hut, how's it going out there? Good to see you out there. Much, much more new faces as well. Again, folks, we are days away from being able to put this channel together with content every single day. Your support for Patreon has been overwhelming, and we appreciate that, and thank you very much. Also, thank you for being patient with us as we've been promising a launch that's going to set things off on a full-time schedule. I can report this. The floors in our house are finally completed. Mari is in the final stages of that, and also we are in the final stages of some paint and some couple other little things. But the day is coming very soon. In fact, I could say it's barely over double-digit days that we have until we get to do this. So we are really close to launching this channel full-time, content all the time. Until then, I apologize, but thank you for the patience. We're just going to try to do as many broadcasts in between as we can. I'd like to do another show on Friday, possibly Saturday, if not Friday. And then again, we'll try to do 2 or 3 more next week. And the following week is when we really should start ramping up activity once again, giving you guys daily Grand Solar Minimum updates and much, much more. All right, guys, that's going to do it for me tonight. Hope everyone has a wonderful Thanksgiving tomorrow, and be safe out there. We will talk soon.